I'm sorry. Oh, it's an accident. Shh, be quiet or I'll get in trouble.
What's poppin', everybody? This is the cartoon kid Ray Rollins, and today, for our modern SpongeBob review, we're talking about a recently released episode called Escape from Under Glove World. Now, before we get into this episode, man, people who watch us on a consistent basis already know how this is gonna go, but we're gonna have Mr. Alex Payne here give us the episode breakdown before we start breaking it down. So, what happens in this episode?
Usually I give the episode breakdown and then give my first thoughts. But I think I'm gonna do that in the reverse because my first thought is because I watched this episode yesterday, okay, and my first thought is I had to genuinely force myself to even slightly remember what happened in this episode, which I think says a lot about the quality of the episode. Not necessarily bad, but it just is very, very, very forgettable, it seems like. But to
Okay.
give the bare minimum of what I can remember of a breakdown, um, SpongeBob and Patrick are in Glove World enjoying the ride and shit, and they keep going on this baseball ride to basically of what they said like a couple thousand gazillion times or whatever. So they
Yeah.
decided So they decided to take a break and went over to the theater, and they had an animatronic robot of the former owner or the creator of Glove World. And after the show is over, Patrick goes backstage and rips his head off. I mean, doesn't happen exactly like that, but that's the best way to put it. So basically, him and SpongeBob get thrown in glove jail, where they meet a bunch of other little kids, and one small kid in particular who is a baby. And SpongeBob and Patrick decide to watch out for him, especially after he escapes from jail. So it's basically them adventuring through Glove World's attractions and events and all that other shit.
Yep. To basically keep track of the kid and make sure he stays safe.
Yeah.
I gotta say, my first thought of this episode, and it has to be said, we said it a billion, gazillion, trillion, however many times throughout our SpongeBob reviews, the comparison between old Patrick and new Patrick. Now, I'll be honest. I'm gonna try to make this as brief as possible. This Patrick in this episode is not as terrible as some of the Patrick that they portrayed in previous episodes. And I'm gonna give the example
Mhm.
of the
I can
Goofy
agree
Newbie
perfectly.
and the episode where he works at the Krusty Krab falling to make Mr. Krabs a quick buck. Now, the reason why I say that is he dumber than old school Patrick? Absolutely. But it's in a comical way that I honestly enjoyed. Okay? I'm going to be one. I freaking love this Patrick. Now, I'm going to tell you why I enjoy him. Okay? And not in a sexual way or anything. I know Alex is going to make that joke. Okay? You were
I wasn't even gonna say
ready to
that. That
start.
shows where
You
your
was ready
mind
to start
is.
shooting. The gun was loaded. Okay? Because I know you. We're going to get on the moments here with this. Patrick, when he rips the freaking robot's head off, he goes and gives him a big hug, trying to embrace him or whatever. And, he ends up getting a little too frisky with him. He's a big, gigantic, grown kid, if you want to call him that. And then, whoop, off goes the head. And then the robot's screaming, "I need repair." I think that's how it goes. But he's basically telling the robot, "No, be quiet, or I'm gonna get in trouble." And he's like, "Shut up, stupid!" And he's just all freaking bent out of his mind about this robot getting, screwed up. So I gotta say that has to be one of my favorite moments in this episode, man. And I think he even rips it apart a little bit more afterwards. But Patrick, the reason why I say this is hilarious is because I think all of us as kids been in that moment before, like when we screw something up in a house and mom and dad are coming, or you're gonna be worried about what mom and dad think, or even if you're wrestling with one of your little siblings or any of your other siblings. I can't tell you how many times I was wrestling with my brothers. I ended up getting hurt, and I started crying when I was real little, and they were like, "Motherfucking they were like, man, shut up, man, mom gonna hear you, shut up." And that's when I cried louder. But I had to say that was one of my favorite moments throughout this episode. What are some of yours?
Um, I thought, like you said, when he ripped off there, that was funny. He was trying to jam it back on and shit. If I had to
Hmm.
mention another funny moment is when they was going on the tube ride thing, up the waterfall ride thing, and then
Yeah.
the animatronic head was biting the back of their thing, and then he bit his ass, and then he bit Patrick's ass.
Yeah.
He was like,
SpongeBob,
oh,
do you feel the pain on your butt? No.
it's like,
now
ah.
I do.
Yeah,
You
there
gotta.
was something.
I
I
gotta.
would say there was something really funny in this episode, but I can't remember what it was.
No,
I was.
I think I remember it when they all pop out of the jail and SpongeBob's like, "Oh, I don't want to break any more rules. I need to hit the escape alarm." And I'm like, "Why are you gonna give them a heads up? You were escaping with them, fool! Come on,
Listen,
man."
I see something I watched over the last couple of days, and I really want to. I really, really want to say it's this. I, and I'm gonna go off of it and let's say it is this. I feel like this episode had so much sexual undertones in it.
Maybe it did. Maybe it did. It had to. Or you know what? No, I think it was the Dragon Ball review we were gonna do. And
No,
by the way, we're not doing that no more. But
they
I
didn't
will
know we were
say
thinking about it.
no.
But
I just mentioned it. If there's
yeah,
casual watchers of the channel, you never know. So anyway, I got him at the end where Patrick basically gets into the fight with the little robot, and they were basically playing hot potato with Patrick's head. I thought that was pretty hilarious. And then SpongeBob had it, and then the head went on the robot. And he's like, "Ooh, I like this body." And then the robot's like, "Oh, I like this body too." So I don't know. Maybe this was the episode with all the sexual undertone. Who knows, man? But as far as my moments go, that's all I can remember because this was a pretty long episode.
yeah, you know
And
what? It was this because there was the first, and I really want to say it's this. I think it was like, um, Tender Fingers Incorporated or some shit like that.
oh yeah.
And then all the glove shit, like all the glove, like the songs and all that other shit, like just full of
Uh-huh.
so much sexual shit. So yeah, it was this episode with all the sex in it.
Okay, you weirdo. What about any other
Listen,
moments? You have any?
listen,
What?
that shit is blatant. Okay, that is not very small. That's not. Oh, you
I
know what?
was.
Patrick's head looks kind of like a penis. Listen,
I mean, listen.
they was going into big detail to talk about the delicate fingers and shit.
I gotta say this. So, one thing about this episode, yeah, it was a 20 to 30 minute episode. It was a special. So we're all used to having SpongeBob episodes, probably like maybe 8 to 11 minutes, some of them somewhere along those lines. It was a little bit longer. However, I gotta say it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I'm not gonna sit here and say it's the greatest thing of all time, but on a comedy level, it was enjoyable. And the reason why I feel you don't remember much of this episode is because it was just like a whole bunch of jokes being told. It was all comedy centered, which is good.
I wouldn't even say that because I think it just had a lot of nothingness in it. And I guess you could say this is part of my review if you let me slip over into that.
Go
Um,
ahead. Go ahead.
I feel like this episode would have been good, if not even great, if it was 11 minutes. Because
Okay.
this episode kind of had a lot of shit that didn't need to be
No,
there.
no doubt. I'm not gonna disagree with that. I'm
Like,
really
it had
not
a
gonna disagree
lot
with
of
that.
stuff that really didn't need to be there. And it's not even because, plenty jokes and all that. Like, there was just so much stuff that they could have just cut and it probably would have been a lot better episode. Like, so I think this one was the opposite case of what we usually talk about. Is this one was too long for its own good.
Right. Because I feel with all this funny stuff with Patrick at the beginning, um, they could have kept that in there. They could probably took the whole part with the ride at the beginning out. Um, Maybe they could have kept the whole kid in there with the whole glove jail scene. They didn't have to have all the other kids, and who knows, maybe they could have escaped that way. But honestly, and it's like they say with like when you're writing and editing books and whatnot, you can take a good chunk of the shit out, and the story will still be good. If not good, better. Honestly, so
Yeah,
I
because
do agree with that.
Because what they could have did was, the whole beginning when they get Patrick rips out his head, go into the jail, the little kid runs out, and that's when the kid could have steal the body and the head go after them, maybe do the ass biting shit, and then lead over into the final battle. Like that could have been easily condensed into just those big points.
Right. No,
But
no doubt, no doubt.
but
And
that
then we would have been left saying, man, this should have been a little bit longer. Who knows what they could have done with more? I probably would have, because I usually say that. So, but continue.
But I think it was a decent episode. It would have been better if it was a lot more condensed. Like you said, the characters. I can't say Patrick is perfect, and I don't think him or SpongeBob ever will be again. But I would say he was at least a person, because you can't even say that about a lot of the other Patricks. And this, at least he was a person.
Right.
It may be a little slow, but at least he had a personality.
But that's always Patrick's always been slow, but you can tell with the way he was acting, there was feeling in it. Whoa, shut up! I'm gonna get in trouble. That was my favorite. I don't care what nobody says. That was my favorite line in this episode. I do not care what nobody says.
Because
I could so relate with that shit.
But see this is my analogy on I guess you could say the progression of Patrick. But because like old school Patrick is, I skipped a couple of grades slow.
Right.
Mid SpongeBob Patrick was downright mentally challenged, inside the nut house, retarded, and kind of psycho at the same time. He used to do some fucked up shit to a lot of people. And this Patrick is Patrick at age 5.
I like this Patrick a lot more. I'm not even lying with you. I did like this Patrick a lot more.
But see, that's the thing. I could have seen the old Patrick doing that too, though.
Yeah, me too. And that's because as soon as I saw that, I can't tell you how many times I had to go back and watch that over.
It's kind of like a version of the balloon.
The balloon?
When you think about it, yeah, the balloon. When they stole the balloon and it popped.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was thinking about the chocolate balloon for the Valentine's Day episode. But yeah, I definitely do agree, man. This Patrick is a lot more enjoyable. And like I said, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, here we go. We're going to have to bring up discussion of old Patrick versus new Patrick again.
We need to make a video out of that. Just a full-on discussion.
No, we will. 100%.
But the focus, though, the episode was decent. Could have been better if they cut off a lot of shit. But it definitely wasn't bad. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
Ooh. You know what? That's a little lower than I expected, honestly. But I can't say...
I would have given it a 7 maybe yesterday. But the fact that I can't remember, I barely could even remember it, kind of takes points away from it for me. Because I can't even remember the shit one day after watching it. Then.
True.
So yeah, 6.
That's some big points right there. And see, that's the thing. I don't think this episode was supposed to be remembered, though. That's the thing for me. I don't think this episode is supposed to be remembered. But however, if it's a good episode, like obviously most of the Courages are, you're going to remember them whether you want to or not. However, like I said, the main pitfall of this episode was that it was a little bit too long. That's it. It should have been the regular 8 to 11 minutes. And then some of the stuff, a good portion of it rather, should have been taken out. So that's my only gripe with this episode. Comedy was on point, though. Like I said, obviously, I mentioned it
definitely had some good funny moments.
No doubt. I mentioned it a gazillion times. The Patrick scene with the head was freaking absolute fire. Okay. So, in my opinion, I'll have to give this episode, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. Why not? Because I think because like you said, not being able to remember it after a day of watching it, it's like, that's big points taken away. So, it's just like, this should have been remembered. If it's a good episode, you're going to remember it no matter what. So, 6.5 is good for me. That has been our review for SpongeBob Escape from Underglove World. This is the Cartoon Kid channel where we talk cartoons and we do it daily. As always, toss your opinions down in the comments box down below. Tell us what you think of this episode. Tell us if you like it. Tell us if you hate it. And tell us if you have any ideas of other shows to review. But with all that being said, we will see you when we see you. Peace out, everybody.